That was about 30 minutes ago or so, so I would assume just about any minute
And guys,
we should be hearing something.
Curious.
It's official.
Oh.
It's official. Ledell Lee just became Arkansas's first lethal injection in more than a decade. That is the tweet from Jesse Tenure. It has happened. It is done. It is final.
Time of death, 11:56.
It's over.
Before midnight.
So Ledell Lee is has died from lethal injection tonight. We should be getting a press conference very, very soon, and that is when some action will start happening out here, and we'll be able to get more information in terms of what went on inside.
But given the timing of things, you know, Kevin, back to the timing issue, it seems like the timing was right on as far as these things go historically. The witnesses, though, they will tell the story about. We'll get a full update on the midazolam, how that worked, and the process. It has been 12 years since this was carried out here, so you've got to keep in mind too that there's a host of ADC personnel who still have jobs to do. But Ledell Lee will be leaving the Arkansas Department of Corrections system tonight, not under his own power.
We have Mitch McCoy, who's coming out. Mitch, come on over here. Mitch McCoy just left the media room, and he ran over here with information. You're probably out of breath, but what can you tell us? What do you know?
So the PIO for the Arkansas Department of Correction picked up the phone at 11:58. The director said that at 11:44 the injection started. That's the IVs, the lethal injection. A coroner declared Ledell Lee dead at 11:56, and he declined to give a final statement. So some significant developments.
Sure.
Okay, very significant. You know, and he didn't give a final statement. I wondered if he would. When he was asked what he wanted his last meal to be, he asked for communion. So for some reason, I just felt like, knowing that he was thinking spiritually, then he would have something to say.
We do know that Ledell Lee's attorney will be talking to the media tonight. They're going to be holding a news conference, and then also we did know that the family of Ledell Lee's victim was in that chamber, and she declined. The family is declining to talk tonight.
Okay, when you say in that chamber, we've been reporting that the family was in a separate room. Were they in the same room with the witnesses?
Let me re-clarify. They're on prison grounds.
They witnessed
unclear
through
at this
a
point.
closed circuit, I
Sure.
believe.
Yes. Yeah. And so, but the family's declining to give a comment tonight.
And we were wondering if they would. Bob, you and I were talking about that.
Sure.
It would be, you don't have to leave yet, that it would be very emotional for them to actually speak about it right now.
You've got to think that for the past 20 years, they've been wanting to see justice served, and they've been looking for this, and they've been fighting for it, and there have been clemency hearings, there have been all sorts of things that they have been through, and they have literally poured themselves out emotionally to get to this point, and now it's here. So there is a great burden lifted off them tonight. So.
And they probably need time to process it all before they actually speak. The protesters, from what I understand, at the governor's mansion, lots of tears, lots of tears. Obviously, they did not want to see this happen. You do have people who are opposed to the death penalty. They say, you know, one wrong doesn't make a right, or two wrongs, excuse me, doesn't make a right. And that's what we're getting too on social media.
Well,
we're getting a lot of people who are just very upset that this is actually happening tonight.
Well, then there's a lot of people too that are very upset that it has taken this long. Justice delayed is not justice granted, would be the the argument, and that this has taken far too long. That this person was found guilty of a heinous crime 20 years ago, and here we are just now, justice being served. So some folks say this should have happened a lot sooner.
Well, you know, he was scheduled for execution 3 years after he committed the crime. The crime happened in 1993. It was in 1996 that he was scheduled, his first scheduling for execution. That obviously did not happen, but
and then even down to the wire we went all the way up. I mean, think about something that's happening here. Members of the United States Supreme Court were fully engaged in.
Yeah.
this evening to make sure that the process was moving in the right direction and everything was working in the right way of justice.
Right.
And that was their conclusion this evening. And
you know what, Bob, it's interesting because you and I were talking about we may be seeing witnesses here. Why don't you zoom in?
yeah, I think we've got
Why don't you zoom in? Those are
media witnesses
those are the
are
media
back.
witnesses that are arriving back for the news conference. And once they get through that news conference, we will certainly know more in terms of what happened. Mitch McCoy was here to give us some information, and we do appreciate the fact that he was able to gather some amount of information, but we certainly do want to hear what those who were actually in that witness room saw. We want to know what they saw. We want to know how they feel after seeing it. And as we've mentioned, the reporters were able to take notes. So, you know, whatever they may not be able to remember off the top of their heads, maybe they wrote it down.
Yeah, and this is also, you know, as much as we talked about this, they've got the paper there to record their observations and things like that. There are some things they will or won't remember. There are many things that will be seared in their memory for the rest of their lives. And some people that I've known in the past who have witnessed these executions, and they've gone off without a hitch, you know, it affected them. And how can it not?
Right.
And they elect not to see it again. So it's one of those things. But it is, and I think there are some people, and you've got to commend them, volunteer witnesses that stood up because something like this needs to be witnessed and needs to be recorded by other people in society. And it's also a thing too. You know, you bring in the argument of does this do its job by punishing the condemned, but also by raising a red flag or shooting up a flare that this is justice. And
you commit a crime,
if you
this
commit
could
a
happen to
crime,
you.
this is waiting for you. I mean, it's been on hold here for 12 years in Arkansas. Clearly, that's no longer the case. We've got a full half a month of executions still to get through, perhaps. So it's one of those things. Will this be the deterrent? There's always been that argument: is the death penalty a deterrent? Because certainly we see that, you know, people are getting murdered still. But just what kind of an impact this will have on some folks, you know, that's always hard to say.
Okay, hang on one second here. Staff administered first drug at 11:44. At 11:44 p.m., Lee's time of death 11:56. Is that the tweet that they wanted me to issue out? I guess that's what's coming out of the news conference right now. Jesse Tenura is inside the media room, inside the Cummins unit, and they are in the process of having a news conference. So we're going to hold off a little bit. We're going to have more information for you in just a short amount of time. But we do see some people who are, I think those are basically workers right there that we're looking at right now.
So yeah, what they'll do right now is that they'll assemble in there, and they're going to have their press conference. It will be an Arkansas Department of Corrections spokesperson will go do a blow-by-blow on what happened. They'll even be describing, you know, body movements, chest heaving, last sigh, things like that. The gaze of the inmate, whether or not their eyes closed. You know, it gets rather detailed. Don't want to get too much of it, but it does, and that just puts those of us who didn't witness it in their room.
Yeah.
And then the media witnesses will step up and they'll announce who they are, who they work for, and what they saw.
Hey,
Everyone sees something different.
Donna and Bob,
Everyone has
real quick.
something different to say and something different to pass along.
Kevin, go ahead.
Yeah, we just got a statement from Attorney General Leslie Rutledge.
That's right. She's referencing the 24 years that the Reese family, we're speaking about Deborah Reese, that they have waited to see justice done. If we can pop that up. She said at the end, I pray that the lawful execution helps bring some closure to the Reese family. She said this lawful sentence, which she keeps referring to it as a lawful sentence of a jury, which has been upheld by the courts through decades of challenges, has been carried out. The family of the late Deborah Reese, who was brutally murdered with a tire thumper after being targeted because she was home alone, has waited more than 24 years to see justice done. And again, we have learned here in the last few minutes that it took a total of 12 minutes for Ledell Lee to die by lethal injection. Again, this family, they've waited 24 years to see the sentence carried out.
And as we heard from Fox 16's Mitch McCoy, the victim's family has declined interviewing, and you have to respect that. You also have to understand that, considering the amount of years they have waited for what I'm sure they're calling justice to finally be served. So that's an interesting fact. Of course, we're waiting for those who were able to witness the execution to come forward and share their thoughts, as Bob and Donna have been talking about. But as you mentioned, 12 minutes from start to finish. And when you think about it, there in between the administration or administering of those drugs, there was a 5-minute waiting period, at which point the deputy director or the executioner had to wait and confirm that, in fact, Ledell Lee was unconscious before administering the remaining 2 drugs. So if you remove those 5 minutes, the execution procedure in terms of administering the drugs only lasted 7 minutes.
And that's right. And it all started at 11:44. That's when the midazolam was administered first. And there have been a lot of questions about this drug, whether or not it would fully sedate an inmate. And it appears that the drug did what the state said that it was going to do tonight.
Yeah.
They've argued this, even up until this week.
And speaking of the midazolam, I'm curious to see what the witnesses might be able to provide to us as it pertains to how they checked Ledell inmate to determine he was in fact unconscious. In previous executions outside of the state of Arkansas, that has been determined by checking the inmate's eyes or even pinching the inmate to see if there's any type of reaction. Whether that was a protocol or a procedure that was followed here in the state of Arkansas remains to be seen. Hopefully the witnesses will be able to tell us how that was determined that he was in fact unconscious, thus allowing the next drug to be administered.
That's right, and we're learning from Jesse that from the media witnesses, they're telling reporters that Lee was asked twice for his last words. They gave him a second opportunity, and he did not respond there. We do know that he was given a last meal about 4 o'clock this afternoon, which he declined. He opted for communion. That was his last meal, so interesting to see some of his last movements.
Yeah, and he was even asked if he wanted to have his last meal with the prison population, of which he also declined, opting for, as you just mentioned, communion. But the state of Arkansas has, in fact, executed its first condemned inmate in 12 years. A lot of eyes certainly on the state of Arkansas to make sure this was done without any major problems, including the legal challenges, but that is certainly the case tonight. First inmate put to death in 12 years. As you can see, this is a live shot right now outside of the Cummins unit. We're also being told that protesters who have gathered outside the governor's mansion, Ashley, as you can see, have now slowly filtered away.
That's right. There were about 30 to 40 people estimated at one point there at the governor's mansion. They've gone home for the evening. At this point, we're waiting to hear from the media witnesses. We're also being told from Jesse that Ledell Lee's attorney is going to speak with the media tonight. We will hear from him. He was likely one of the witnesses there tonight. So we want to go out back to Cummins, where Bob and Donna are right now. You guys have any new information?
No, essentially what's probably happening inside there is a press conference in front of cameras with all these folks presenting exactly what it was that they witnessed, and there may be some Q&A back and forth, of course, with Ledell Lee's attorney when he's up there. And so this could be a little bit of a process, and then once these folks are excused, then they'll head this way, and we'll try to get them to you as soon as possible.
Yeah, we are hoping, we're efforting getting one of the witnesses to talk to us tonight. So we have some folks working on that. I've been sending some tweets to both, or not tweets, but text messages to Jesse Tenura as well as Mitch McCoy, who are in that room right now during the press conference, to make sure that we can get someone out here who can talk about what they saw tonight.
And you know, Kevin, when we go back to the protocol, you know, this is going to be one of those things. The argument against midazolam is going to be harder to make, because it appears that this execution went off as planned, without any flaws. At least we presume that right now.
Way.
Yeah, we haven't heard otherwise. But the timing of it, and the fact that we're not seeing any tweets to the
Bob,
contrary.
Well, you know, we have a string of cars
And these are
leaving right now,
probably
so these could
other
be family
witnesses.
members as well as witnesses that are leaving, and workers. I think Monday night when you guys were here, you saw a lot of workers that were leaving, so that's part of it. They've been here for a very long time and ready to go home.
We got something else from Jesse.
Media witnesses. Lee appeared to lose conscious very quickly, and only thing they could see was his face and arms. Media witness. Lee was asked twice for his last words. We just said that. So that kind of addresses the issue of the midazolam drug. If he actually was able to lose consciousness that quickly and easily, it seems like the drug worked.
And when the other drugs were administered, didn't show any reaction to them.
Right.
So,
Right.
which that was kind of the given the fact that the execution of someone who had killed someone was why we were here, but also a lot of eyes were watching that, the administering of midazolam and how that was going to happen.
Sean Murphy, one of those eyes watching from the Associated
Very
Press.
critical.
Because
tonight,
he actually witnessed a botched execution, and it dealt with midazolam
So that was a
in
set of
Oklahoma.
critical eyes that a lot of folks want to hear
And
his take on all
that's
this.
why I do want to hear from him, because I want to hear, I mean, even though we heard media witness, and perhaps that was him, but I guess there's another tweet from Jesse here. Give me a minute to clear. Media witness, it appeared Lee did not suffer. So that's what we're talking about right now. At least 12 civilian witnesses, 2 attorneys, and the Department of Correction officials.
And if
Also
I'm not
there,
mistaken,
no
I
one
think I
said
just saw
anything.
a hearse that just drove off the grounds. If so, that was Ledell Lee.
That was
At least it
quick.
appeared. It appeared.
That would have been
to be.
very fast. So anyway, it seems like everything actually happened the way that the Arkansas Department of Correction wanted it
That
to.
they practiced, they've trained, and they put all these protocols in place, and they went down the way it's supposed to.
Yeah, and from what I understand, the protesters outside the governor's office or outside the governor's mansion, they're dispersing. There were lots of tears, lots of sorrow. They didn't want to see this happen, but it's over now.
And it opens up the door to what we have to move forward with, because we will be back here Monday night. We've got
With
two more inmates that are scheduled
executions.
to be executed. And I guess we know if we could bring Marcy in for a second, if we could jump ahead to Monday night. I'm not sure the weight of their appeals, or if they're exercising any request for stay. I think a couple of them had said under the grounds of physical inability, the fact that they are not perhaps physically able to be put to death by the drugs because of their Marcel Williams.
Marcel Williams, he actually, and Jack Jones will be the other person who's scheduled for execution. But Marcel Williams, I read when he was arrested for his crime, he weighed about 198 pounds, and in the course of the years, 2 decades, he put on another 200 pounds.
Yeah.
So the question is, will these drugs actually
Are they strong
work
enough
for him?
So a number of questions still ahead, but tonight, slowly wrapping up. Monday will be Monday, but again, we're still waiting on some witnesses to come out here and hear their take on what happened tonight.
Okay,
by
we're going to
witnesses.
toss it back to
Yes.
you in the studio. We want to take care of a couple things out here, get our ducks in a row. We really need to get a media witness.
Yeah, all right.
So we'll talk with you
guys
in just a second, okay?
Get
Sounds
back
good.
to
Thank
work,
you.
and we're learning from Jesse right now that the governor has called this the most grave responsibility he'll ever have. The right thing was done.
Yeah.
That is what J.R. Davis has told reporters tonight, that again, this was one of the biggest responsibilities, and he has talked about that leading up to tonight, and how he felt confident that the state would be able to carry out these sentences, and it looks like they did tonight at 11:56 with Ledell Lee.
Yeah, and let's not forget about the victim's family. In fact, the governor's spokesperson sending out a tweet via Jesse Tenur, who works for us, saying that the victim's family can go to sleep tonight for the first time in years, knowing that justice has been carried out.